Pokémon. It's one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, second only to Mario. A series that manages to captivate generation after generation with immersive worlds of infinite possibilities. I loved the Pokémon games as a kid, and even into my late teenage years. But I always ran into the same problem. Pokémon games are simply too easy. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certain encounters that will have you scratching your head, wondering who in their right mind thinks this game is made for kids. But between being able to easily surpass any of the enemy's levels, along with, in some cases, just straight up questionable AI, the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Pokémon games isn't challenging. Recently, I had the urge to pick the series back up. But I wanted a challenge. The most common way of raising the difficulty of a Pokémon game is by performing a Nuzlocke. Only catching your first encounter on every route, disallowing the use of Pokémon who have fainted in battle, and ending the run upon whiting out. This intrigued me, but I wanted to add my own twist on it. By never defeating wild Pokémon or using the daycare, I will only have a limited amount of XP to train up the few Pokémon I catch. Naturally, this means losing a Pokémon late into the run is basically irredeemable, as there is no way to grind up a replacement. I also randomize wild encounters and starters so that I may never have a definitive strategy or win condition. So without further ado, I bring to you, can you defeat Pokémon Black with only trainer battles? The game starts out by receiving a gift Pokémon and oh, well, don't mind if I do. Wait, he only knows Takedown? Wait, he only learns Takedown? Well... Of course, you'd be stupid not to start with a fire type. What was I thinking? Now, Lil Wiki, Son Groku, and I see you, show this youngster that we mean business. Hey, we're here for a good time, not a long time, am I right? 1v2?
Pocket sand! Yeah.
It actually worked. Now for our newest member. And I forgot to randomize the gifted Pokemon. Alright. Dragon Trainer Detra? And I get Dragon Rage? It's over.
Fire! Fire! And fire!
First gym complete. Beat up some thugs that are picking on Plushymon, and then... Dragon Trainer Detra! It's fine. No, it's fine. After bullying some preschoolers and pillaging their sandbox, I face off against my rival once again. But we have...
Fire!
I did find this rock. Wonder what this thing is. Pikachu! Level 25, time for gym number 2. With Pikachu leading the party, I take down Herdier. Now sick 'em, Dino! Oh no. Maybe I've been going about this all wrong. There's no need to be fancy. Begin the game with an actual starter, decent stats, amazing late game scaling, and he's already dead. That's not so bad. None of my Pokemon can learn Cut. What a dumb soft lock. Dragon Trainer Tetra. Now is probably a good time to tell you that in a Nuzlocke, it's also customary to nickname all the Pokemon you catch. So if anyone was wondering what I named my dragons, let me introduce, like, and subscribe. The first 2 rival fights were trivial, and with Subscribe leading the charge, the first gym leader was felled in an instant. Bianca yelled at me to save some cotton candy, disaster was averted for our dessert friend, and I make my way to gym number 2. Along the way, Like learned Dragon Rage, and I picked up another funny looking rock, and it turned into a horsey. This time, with 2.5 dragons, 2 ghosts, and 1 death fodder on my side, I was able to scrape by with no major casualties. These ruffians trashed the museum, and it was clear that there was only one person who could set things right. A diligent, persistent, nothing gets by the one and only Dragon Trainer. That Zapdos was my encounter, wasn't it? Alright, big picture. What kind of challenge would this be if I simply blew through the game with legendary Pokemon? You couldn't even call that a challenge. I want something that requires strategy. Something that makes me think. I'm an intellectual at heart. And there's simply nothing stimulating about some pathetic get-out-of-jail-free card. Now where was I? Ah yes, after I carefully navigated the forest and expertly cornered the thieves, I returned the fossil to its proper owners. And with that, I was off to the third gym. Notable things that happened on my trek: I found a Pikachu spider, forced it to join my party, beat up a janitor for his handy helmet, and then this happened.
I think I'm screwed. I don't think I saved at any point. Maybe loading the save state? Oh, it's so corrupted.
Yeah, I hadn't saved. Not even once. At this point, I was only 6 runs in, but I felt strangely confident. I would have this finished in just under a day's work, maybe 2 at the most. A couple runs later, I found this gem. This diamond in the rough. This little gear was a monster. Not only was his attack stat, combined with his same type move Gear Grind, nearly one-shotting most of his enemies, but with his steel typing and incredible defense, there was nothing that could touch him. He was unmatched. Gym 1 was a clean sweep. Gym 2, normal types? It couldn't even come close to hurting him. I marched on. What was awaiting us in the third city? Insects? Against our colossal menace? They couldn't hold a candle to him. Though now that I think about it, that probably would have done more damage. Now I should mention to this point, I had not been leveling anyone else outside of Clang. So I got the fun learning helmet so that the others could feel included, but I really only had one Pokemon. So I started training up my other members. I wanted a well-rounded team, and that's when disaster struck. First, let's look at this innocent-looking fireball. Almost seems harmless, but this firecracker hits like a train. Blissey was gone. With bitter morale, I progressed to the 4th gym. Waiting behind those doors, though, was an unspeakable menace. This flying Pikachu has the ability Static, which, if you don't know, has a chance to paralyze your Pokemon on contact. None of my other Pokemon were strong enough to deal with these rats, and every move they have, along with my own Gear Grind, makes contact. Elisa has 2 of these cherry chipmunks, which by themselves wouldn't be all too bad. However, when paired with her ace, they become deadly. There's absolutely no chance Clang doesn't get paralyzed in this encounter. And this Zebra is rocking Flame Charge, a super effective fire-type move that I can tank 2 of at most. Since I'm always paralyzed, I essentially have 1 turn to KO him, or he wipes my entire party. This was the battle. My first day had ended in defeat. To kick off day 2, I forgot to record the beginning of this run. With first, Zippo, Flashlight, and Spooner on my side, I clutched out the first gym badge thanks to an early leftovers I found combined with some creative status afflictions and good type matchups. I helped Bianca save a frightened Heffalump from some bad guys, right before finding Hindenburg. After I defeated my rival, I ran into one of my favorite Pokemon ever. I named him Tank, then helped Sharon fight off these grunts. It was at this point that I had figured out that his Pokemon, these little leeches, were sapping experience from this fight, even though they can't level up. I decided to take matters into my own hands. He's not doing a Nuzlocke after all, so I sacrificed his Pokemon to the XP Overlords, to satisfy my own greed. With our newly acquired Tank, I slowly chipped away at the second gym. With a healthy mix of steel typing, the leftovers I picked up earlier, and a handy little move called Protect, this fight took way longer than it should have. But we secured the second gym badge. This next part of the game is normally pretty uneventful until the bug-type gym leader, Berg, but on this specific run, I had the pleasure of experiencing this. I lost Flashlight and Spooner. Not to a difficult fight, or some big boss mon, no. I lost to this John Travolta, pompadour-wearing runt. I still had Tank, so I marched on, replacing two incredible Pokemon with one of my favorite Pokemon, Swalot. After an inspirational recreation of Kirby, I went on to decimate Berg. Still not knowing the dangers of some of these trainers, I foolishly thought my grass type would be able to handle a couple of fishermen. Magikarp got buffed in this game. I was battered and beaten, and my timer had stopped working. But everything was about to turn around. For you see, there were some very fateful encounters just around the corner. At the desert resort, I found Husk, the Nincada, who promptly shed his way into two of my party slots. On Route 6, I met Timpole, this game's version of Mudkip. And there's one that will have to wait for later. Now, I'm not the best Pokemon player, nor do I claim to be a good Nuzlocker, but I am stubborn. For some reason, I thought I didn't need to finish training my Pokemon before this gym. It's as if I had completely forgotten the last time I attempted it. On the very first trainer, I lost Shedinja, and I lost Hindenburg. I went back to the drawing board, knowing there were a few more trainers to grind up my level, and one more encounter. I had never seen this Pokemon before. But fun fact, this is the first Pokemon game where pure Dragon type was implemented. It was also the first game where they had non-legendary dragons with no evolutionary line. This Goliath resisted fire, resisted electricity, took almost no damage as a whole. He soloed Elisa. I was victorious. This was short-lived, however, because on the very next encounter, I foolishly believed I could take two Herdiers head-on while trying to greed for solo XP in this double battle. My greed cost me Husk, cost me Swalot, and cost me one unpaid extra. I would have been upset if it weren't for Mudkip evolving into Marshtomp. With the only major obstacle immediately in front of me being Clay, the ground-type gym leader, I had obtained the perfect response. So with Poliwag the Marshtomp, I grinded. He hit level 28, then 29. His levels were skyrocketing thanks to the lucky egg I picked up on the previous route. 30. 31. The same level as Clay's ace. I got sidetracked sacrificing Kesha to the might of Lord Gaia, and now, on to the gym. Level 34. I set up Rain Dance, hoping he would send in his Excadrill second. He didn't, and I wasted 10 turns swapping around like a moron until I finally took out his Marshtomp. When Excadrill came in, I had no safe switches and nothing healthy enough to one-on-one him. So, in the spirit of clutching out victory, I sacrificed first. And by the grace of first, I was able to swap in Thanks and chip him down just low enough to finish him off with Dragon Rage, without him ever being able to heal. I set my sights on the 6th gym, as Poliwag set his sights on finally evolving into a full-fledged Swampert. Clay took down a nasty spiderweb, and I made my way through Chargestone Cave with no notable encounters. Before I knew it, I was a hop, skip, and a jump away from the 6th badge. Only one obstacle in my way. Appropriately, the majority of this tower is filled with Psychic-type Pokemon, most of them being fairly manageable. A trapezing Pikachu got the attack of his life off on Timon, but aside from that, it was smooth sailing. I rung the bell to let Skyla know lunch is ready, and she ran back to her gym where I promptly wiped her out. This was seriously the easiest gym yet. Sharon once again wants to square off, and I show him just how powerful dumb luck can be in the right scenarios. Then I obtain one of the best HMs in the entire game. And I'll warn you, if you don't have 100% confidence in your Pokemon at this point in the game, do not all of a sudden become Dora the Explorer. Because while yes, you can find a strange man in a cabin in the middle of nowhere that gives you a free egg that has a Typhlosion in it, which is really useful because up to this point you had no response to the upcoming Ice Gym. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, you do not want to mess with the trainers on this route. Close call after close call when you can just waltz through one of the easiest sections of the game and come back 3 to 4 levels higher and 1 gym badge richer. Do we have an understanding? Good, now let's go do the easy part. Just a little cave diving, what's the worst that can happen?
Crit, no crit, no crit, no crit. That's a crit.
So I spent the next 2 hours fighting every trainer I skipped over and went legendary hunting, which was also randomized. Chunky boy! Part of the reason it took me so long is because I killed both of my flyers. So that was fun. Druddigan managed to nap through an entire battle. We were all impressed by that. It was finally time to take on the 7th gym. Now here's the thing about my Typhlosion. He was pretty strong, but the gym leader's Beartic has swagger, which, combined with bad RNG, could lead to a very rough battle. I knew that he could one-shot the ice cream cone and the Christmas tree ornament, but he could not one-shot the Beartic. Except that he could. See, Typhlosion's ability is Blaze, which increases the damage of his fire-type moves when he's below 1/3 health. So I carefully damaged my Typhlosion into range, and I entered the battle, which would have been great if he hadn't leveled in the middle of the battle and jumped out of Blaze range. I swapped around for a bit, trying to get off a Will-O-Wisp. It took Sag biting the bullet and the dust for me to realize I had made a huge mistake. Typhlosion was still in Blaze range. I took out my misguided aggression on Team Plasma, and after running all over Kingdom Come, just kidding, I found this weird looking HM slave, I had thwarted their plans yet again, and was ready to progress. Or so I thought. What would happen next would be the most heartbreaking end to almost any run I had or will have had. Remember Bianca? Green hat, blonde hair, super cheerful. Literally just saw her at the museum not a minute ago. It was a rival battle. Luckily, it was raining and I was leading for Alligator. Her Stoutland posed no threat. I matched her superior with my Typhlosion, and then I ran into possibly the worst RNG I will ever see in a Pokemon game. Simipour's signature move in this battle is Scald, a move with a 30% chance to burn. I switch into Druddigan, who resists Scald, but... Okay, so I got unlucky and it burned on the first attack. But that's not a big deal. Lay in a little damage, hope for the crit with Night Slash, and swap to another Pokemon that resists Scald. A second burn. This could be worse. I still have Tornadus, who despite not having done anything this run has a relatively high attack, and can help defeat Simipour. A 2.7% chance for everything to go terribly wrong, and it did. Mushrana was far too beefy, and all my Pokemon had their attack stat cut in half from burns. This was where day 2 died. Nearly 14 hours into the run, and I get wiped to this strawberry donut. Not much happened on day 3. Some runs ended before the first gym. Any that got past that point died before the Skyla fight. Then came day 4, where, unlike 2 days prior, luck was on my side. 5 hours into my grind, I had already reached late into the night. If I had one more run that made it past the 3rd gym, it will have been my last run of the day. I looked at my starters, and nothing stood out. My first encounter was a Latios, that I couldn't catch with only 5 Pokeballs. On the next route, I encountered an Azumarill. Still no cut user. It was all down to the gift Pokemon. The Pokemon that would carry the first HM of the game was Raikou. It goes without saying that the first gym was child's play after obtaining one of the legendary dogs. This, however, would not be known as the run where I got gifted a Raikou. The game had other plans. I was gifted a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. With the most iconic legendary in all of Pokemon sitting right in front of me, and the means to obtain it, I had secured this as one of the best runs I could possibly have. Things would only get better, as my very next encounter would be... Nah, just kidding, I sacrificed 2 Pokemon trying to catch this, but there was no way I was going to get it. So with Mewtwo, Raikou, and 1 unfossilized Mudkip, I tackled the 2nd gym. but not before finding a Soldu to pair with my beautiful Ladio. Yeah. Oh, and I just decided not to use either of my legendaries during this fight. Second badge secured. We have a better water type now. Who found Treasure Planet and buried all the best loot in the sand? And here I was actually worried about bugs for once. Even with the trauma of previous defeats, I was unfazed. At least it didn't have the tools to deal with pocket sand. Fourth badge in the bag. I took a detour to fight some extra trainers and find this cross-dressing Gardevoir. Then it was on to gym number 5. Grass-type Stantler put in more work than I thought he would in this battle. And Excadrill gave me a nice reality check. Despite having such great encounters to this point, I could only grind so much. Who I put XP on would be just that much more important from here on out. I started looking at what a final team might turn out to look like with my current options and decided to go with these guys. It's fairly well rounded with lots of type coverage, and with these picks laid out, I shouldn't have to worry about XP spread for the future fights. Climbing through the tower, I train up Raikou for the upcoming gym.
No one out-pizzas the hut.
Gigalith and Raikou made swift work of Skyla, and it was on to face Bryson. Hopefully for the last time. Did I check up here last time?
I'm a little scared.
You could gaze into the future.
Endeavor? No! Oh!
I took a break. It was well into the next day at this point, but I wasn't going to sleep without seeing this through. Hey guys, I realized after recording the script that this battle had a lot more to it than I swept over, so I'm here to walk through it. I planned to sweep with my Gallade, but he was a bit underleveled. I set up Paralysis and Reflect so that Vanillish couldn't easily break the substitute, used Reflect turns to reduce his accuracy, then climbed to +6 with Sword Stance. With the sub still standing, I was able to low sweep my way through Bryson. The 7th badge was mine, and I set my eyes on the rematch with Bianca. I was on my game. Team Plasma didn't stand a chance. I was as prepared as I could be. She opened with Stoutland. I knew she had 2 Hyper Potions, and Stoutland could set up. I weakened him just enough to be able to switch into Dragonite and finish him off. Then fell Superior. Then the Strawberry Donut. It was down to the rematch with Simipour. But this wasn't a rematch. It was a one-sided total victory. With the end nearly in sight, I looked to my matchup with Drayden. Over 10 hours in, I plowed full steam ahead. Leading the assault with Swampert, I Ice Beamed his Fracture down to red health. Knowing he would heal, I swapped in Raikou to set up a Reflect, as he set up 3 Dragon Dances. With Reflect in place, I was able to duke it out with Druddigon. It was down to his ace, Haxorus, who dragged out Zoro. I stumbled around for a bit, not wanting to switch back into a Dragon Tail. He set up a Dragon Dance and got his crit, but it wasn't enough. I was moving on to Victory Road, and the Elite Four. Sharon had his last shot at revenge, and at this point all of his Pokemon had outleveled my own. Even so, he was powerless to stop me. A storm whipped up and I thought the roaming legendary was randomized. It, wasn't. And there goes my Master Ball. I decided to catch him out of pure spite, and it was time for Victory Road, and I had no clue as to the horrors that would await me on this journey. All I knew is that my Pokemon were severely underleveled for endgame, and I needed to battle every trainer I could to make up the difference. I decided to train up primarily Dragonite, since he would be my ace heading into the Elite Four. I was switching around when the matchup didn't look favorable. This is when I met Ace Trainer David. His lead is Clang, a Pokemon who my Dragonite has no super effective moves towards and can almost do no damage to. To preserve his HP, I decided to swap in Swampert. Possibly my only Pokemon outside of Gallade with a favorable type matchup. But Swampert has no super effective moves with 100% accuracy. He doesn't learn Earthquake until level 52, so being safe, I decided to use Surf, which will never miss, but also won't one-hit KO Clang. Clang fires back with Mirror Shot, and all of a sudden, my concerns with not having super effective moves with 100% accuracy was remedied. For now I had no moves with 100% accuracy. As Clang fell, David brought in Darmanitan, and I had the pleasure of experiencing this.
Accuracy, figure yourself out, because you are my only answer to this. And he belly drummed.
My Swampert was vanquished. I was completely demoralized. Just around the corner was 6 battles with Pokemon whose minimum level was higher than my Dragonites, and I just lost one of the best tools at my disposal. I was filled with bitter despair. And in my very next encounter, I found out something terrifying. I no longer have a response to rock types. Zoro and T-Pain for Real met an untimely end. I wasn't even at the Elite Four, and things just got worse and worse. Actually, I was at the Elite Four. That was the last trainer. Come on, save this run. Oh. I can make this work. With no more possible preparations, stray XP, or encounters I could take advantage of, I entered the Elite Four. I thought long and hard how I would defeat any of the members, but I decided to start with Marshall, the fighting type member. My plan was pretty straightforward. I would set up Reflect with Raikou outspeeding Throw. With the damage reduction, Org could swap in and set up a Thunder Wave. I would then switch to Gallade, use Substitute, and then between Leftovers and Full Paralysis, I would use Sword Stance to +6 and one-shot his entire team. On paper, it sounded like it would work. The only thing that could go wrong was a lucky crit.
Set up a Reflect. Turn 1. Bulldoze, no crit. He crit. Okay, that's bad, but I have 8 turns.
At least I can set up and sweep, right?
He's sturdy. Shoot. Say goodbye. GG. It's the end of our 24th run.
I was crushed. 13.5 hours in, and I was so close. Unfortunately, with all the losses I had suffered, and all the misplays I made, there was no chance of me completing the challenge. This time.